Kia ora, I'm Tom Kitchen, and today on The Detail I'm at the Henderson Animal Shelter in Auckland looking at a whole lot of cute dogs. I'm in the puppy area. Oh, here's a bit of a nasty one. They're getting a bit angry at me. This is a Staffy cross with a French Bulldog. Beautiful little brown dog, but he's getting a bit angry, so maybe I'll move away a little bit. So the council is overloaded with dogs at the moment in these shelters after there's been a big increase in the number of people getting dogs.
A flood of puppies is not as delicious as it sounds when they've been dumped on your doorsteps. It's just 8 weeks old. And right now, Auckland Council is drowning in them. 29 puppies have been abandoned in the last 24 hours, the worst head count ever.
The known dog population in Auckland has increased by 5.4% in the last year, and the number of reported dog attacks in the same period has increased by 28%.
Auckland dog shelters are overflowing as the city faces a jump in the number of animals being taken in. But they don't all get rehomed. In fact, every year, thousands of dogs are put down, more than 1,600 at the Manukau shelter alone.
Wellington City Council did a dog control report saying the number of uncontrolled dogs has increased by 26% in the last year. 65 attacks on people, 78 attacks on animals, 697 uncontrolled dogs were reported. That's a lot of dogs. And they suggest that the high number of attacks and aggressive dog behaviour is actually a nationwide issue.
So I'm here to talk to the council to tell me a bit more about it. What's the music mean? Does that mean anything, or is that just there?
It just stimulates the dogs who are in the shelter, yeah.
Oh, really?
They think somebody's here.
Look at the little puppies. Oh, this is like my favourite part. Got a Staffy, little tan brown, couple of brown nosed dogs. Oh yes, the husky's beautiful. Yeah. I almost want that husky, it's so beautiful.
Huskies are high maintenance?
Yeah. Beautiful dogs though.
I'm Sean Murray. I'm the team leader for the Northern team up with animal management. We have a lot of dogs that have been found out roaming at large in the streets, waiting for owners to try and retrieve the dogs. We also get a lot of abandoned dogs that people no longer want, and we try and adopt them out as fast as we can.
You had 29 dogs in 24 hours. You had some puppies just turn up in Manukau, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. Sad story. Personally, I'm glad the person, whoever it was, dropped the dogs off at the shelter and then rather leave them abandoned in the bush or where no one could find them. So we were able to retrieve these dogs, and we are currently passing them on to various rescue organisations to try and help. So we're hoping there'll be a happy ending there.
So how bad is it at the moment? How at capacity are you across your shelters across the city?
Our 3 shelters are bursting at the seams. We're really struggling. It's to do with a lot of, I think summer's coming in. There has been an increase in number of dogs this year.
Why is that? I mean, a lot of people are saying the pandemic has brought a lot of people to get dogs.
Yeah, that did. COVID-19, over the shutdown periods and that, a lot of people went in search of dogs as companions to keep themselves company. And after the shutdown, everybody went to work, and some even left to go overseas. And yeah, unfortunately, the dogs stayed, and we had to come and collect them.
So what happened? Where did the dogs go when the owners went away?
Yeah, they either get left with friends or family, and they get tired of them, and they obviously weren't really interested in the dog, and then they just let the dogs roam. Then the dogs become a problem on the streets. Roaming dog, at the end of the day, becomes a dangerous dog. It's going to go and follow other dogs or get tangled up with some kids playing, and then next minute we have an attack, and the aggression levels just go up. Attacks have gone up 33% this year. It's huge numbers. Yeah.
So I was having a look at your animal management annual report, and I was just looking at the graphs and seeing the trends of the amount of dogs, the amount of attacks. It's just going up quite rapidly over the years.
Yeah, if you look at our stats, our known dogs from the 2018-19 registration year was 110,000. It's now gone up to 132,000. It's a considerable jump.
I'm Mark Vetty. I'm an animal behaviourist. I treat behaviour problems in animals around New Zealand and do TV shows.
We've got to get in there and show that dogs can drive cars. It'll be Dial-A-Dog the week after this.
And teach animal behaviour and so on.
So has your job become a bit busier since the pandemic? I mean, we talk about a big increase in dog numbers, yeah?
Definitely, COVID's been a major hit. There's two sides to the story, of course. Dogs in homes are a wonderful thing, and particularly when you've got a population under stress and difficulty, they're certainly fantastic. Stimulate oxytocin and those bonding hormones. And, there's been a lot of good research to show, dogs in the household increase mental health and physical health considerably.
Really?
And
okay.
Lots of benefits for having dogs, but unfortunately, the whole process of lockdown and isolation that we went through, of course, impinges particularly on pups, but also on older dogs badly, because if they don't get socialised well and get lots of social contact with a multiplicity of people and races and age classes and other dogs and other species, then they can end up being mal-socialised. And that's what we're seeing, an epidemic of mal-socialisation.
What does that mean for the dog?
So mal-socialisation means that what a dog does in the bonding phase, the 2 to 4 month phase, is they learn who their extended family is. So if that extended family is very limited, then they're not very successful at socialising with people outside of the extended family and dogs and other species, but we'll talk particularly about people here. If they don't socialise with people through that time and a multiplicity of people, then they become very focused in on their immediate pack or family, and they'll be great with them, but that doesn't extend to other people well. So they become, when they reach kind of 12 to 18 months, they start becoming a bit more protective and or fearful of people and coming in and interacting and being around. Obviously, during COVID, the amount of interaction in your home and around your home decreased considerably. Of course, we behaved really weirdly from a dog's point of view, isolating, putting masks on, avoiding people. From a dog's point of view, that's not a good thing. They think of it that that's a threat, so they start to treat them as threats and worry about strange people coming in and around and strange noises, become much more reactive, much more protective, much more fearful in certain cases.
If dogs become fearful or they get worried like that, what does that mean for how they behave?
They start getting very territorial and protective and rushing to the gate and threatening strangers. And so an increase in overall aggressiveness and fearfulness, and also an increase in over-attachment to people, because we didn't get out and about and leave our dogs to be by themselves at periods. They also got over-attached, so they suffer more separation distress, anxiety about being separated from the owners when they go back to work.
So what happens then? How do the dogs act if they're anxiety ridden because their owner's gone away?
Yeah, so that manifests as vocalisation, barking, howling, destructive behaviour, house soiling, general anxiety symptoms, start getting stomach issues and various health issues. And then when the owners go, they go into what's called sympathetic arousal, which is adrenaline starts pumping in the body. They get stacked up into that state. It's a very poor state. It's the same as us when we get anxious and stressed, and we have all those stress effects like, bowel syndromes and, all the different types of stress effects that we see in humans. Dogs have exactly the same thing. So in our schools, we did workarounds on all those things. We dressed up to and made out people were strangers coming in and taught them to accept strangers. And
really?
We added in a whole lot of separation. So just popping them out in the yard more, putting them down the garage for periods of time, when you do go away, leaving them. And we use different tools to help us to adjust the dog to separation. Most of those problems are treatable, so that's the good news. But most people end up just, putting them into rescue or leaving them on the streets. And with that increase, I think in Auckland we saw a 5.5% increase in population, for example. And over the country, I think we saw 70,000 increase in dogs. You're talking about a population of around 800,000 dogs. 70,000 more a year is a lot of dogs. And so now we're seeing those turning up in the pounds and the rescue organisations.
We see it time after time. When we impound a dog, we give the owners, it's got 7 days to claim the dog. In some cases, the owners just don't even pitch up. It's sad, but it becomes our problem at the end of the day.
What do you do in that case if the owner doesn't come and collect the dog?
We do our absolutely best to try and rehome. Obviously, we work very well with all the rescue organisations. In some cases, on history, if a dog's temperament is unsafe to sort of adopt out, we may end up putting the dog down. It's very hard on our staff, very, very hard. Every dog comes in, they do the absolute best to give it a second chance. We really, really try. In some cases, staff even take foster dogs to try and train them. At the end of the day, we've got to ensure that we do release a dog out for adoption that's going to go to a safe house, and we're not going to have any problems with the dog and the new family.
You got a bit of a bite prevention strategy too, I understand, to try and stop dogs from attacking people. How do you do that? What's that involve?
That's ongoing. We try, we're visiting schools at the moment. We're doing a lot of doggy day outs on the weekend and that. We encourage the public to come and speak to us. We do a lot of education talks. We speak to a lot of organisations like New Zealand Post and the meter readers, and we give them advice and help and tips that could sort of prevent them from on what to look for when they enter onto properties. Just to give that added security. There's 3 words that I have as control, confine and registration. If everybody just did those 3 things, we won't have an issue.
Confine, control, registration. So explain those 3 to me.
Yep. Confining your dog. If you've got a nicely fenced property and you keep your dog confined and not let it wander, your problems are almost solved. Control, if you take your dog out for a walk, take it on the leash. Yes, I know most people, they believe that they could walk their dog off a lead, and it is dangerous. A dog can react at any time to a cat or up another passing dog, or rather just to be safe, just keep the dog on a lead. And registration, register your dog, have it microchipped. These things help. So if the dog ever fails the first 2, confine, control, like due to fireworks or something, jumps the fence and gets away, and we end up picking the dog up, it's easy to bring the dog back home and reunite it with its family.
Also, the move to higher density housing obviously is a big thing around Auckland at the moment. How can you have a dog when you live in somewhere like an apartment? Yeah,
it is difficult. That brings us into the barking chapter of animal management. We have a specialised barking team that deals with it. Yep, high density areas, a lot of noise, a lot of movement, a lot of barking. It's something that's also increased as well.
Barking complaints?
Barking complaints, yeah. Pretty difficult to deal with. We do our best to try work with the dog owner as well as the complainant to come to some agreement. Eventually, if no agreement is found, we would issue a noise abatement notice and then start heading in the enforcement direction.
And that's just a fine for a barking dog, or do you have to get they have to move, or they have to get rid of the dog?
After a couple of noise abatement notices and we're not improving, there's infringements. In cases where if the dog is still not complying, the dogs can even be seized and impounded. And we could end up in court.
Oh, right, okay. Any advice for people who want to have a dog in their apartment?
Go for a small breed if you really need to have a dog. If you've got small space, small dog. Big space, big dog. Don't try and bring a husky or something into an apartment. You're looking for trouble. Go for something, that dog.
I saw a beautiful husky in the shelter just then. Beautiful. Why is a husky not the right one?
I can promise you now, you'll be receiving a lot of visits from us for barking and roaming
But
and
that dog was
jumping
so
the pets.
cute. He didn't he or she, they didn't even bark at me.
No, trust me, you'll get your nails personally.
The more contained and confined your living space, the more limited the dog's ability to exercise and get out and about and do things is. Normally to have a yard to go and toilet in and to play in and run around in gets limited. You don't want a border collie or a very active, sporting breed in that context, because they're just going to get frustrated by the lack of ability to exercise and interact. On the plus side, when you're living in that environment, you're by necessity interacting with people. When you do take your dog out, which you have to do, of course, then you're interacting with a lot more people. So they do have the opportunity to socialise often better, as long as the owner's a diligent owner and is doing their part. The worry is when these dogs get isolated and closed into little wee yards or apartments and don't get out and about enough, and that's certainly a problem for the dog. There's certain breeds, Cavalier King Charles and pugs and, various of the smaller breeds in particular, and some of the bigger breeds, can be okay in apartments. But of course, you've got to house train them in that context. You've got to be able to deal with, their needs in that situation. It becomes more and more difficult the more contained a dog is.
Are there rules for apartments in terms of whether you can have dogs or not? Does it differ on the kind of apartment you're in, or who the landlord is, or who owns the apartment building, or the body corporate you sign, or something like that?
Yes, definitely. And it varies greatly. In fact, I was just up in Auckland last week and stayed in some apartments down in the Viaduct area, and they were dog friendly, and they were, I'd come across 2 or 3 of the couples that lived in there, and one guy came out with his 2 Basenjis, and they said that apartment block that we were in was really dog friendly. And so there is dog friendly apartment blocks, which is great. But of course you tend to find that, particularly with the more modern and upmarket kind of housing and apartments, the landlords often are averse to having pets in their apartments now and in their housing. So it's much harder to actually have a dog in the inner city these days than it used to be. And that's because, the risk of, destructive behaviour in dogs, it's a training issue, not to destroy, the walls and the furniture. And that's mainly that and house soiling are the 2 things that most landlords worry about. And that certainly led to less freedom to have dogs.
Have you seen like body corporate agreements and, you can't have a pet in the apartment or wherever you live because that's what it says in the body corporate, or you can have a cat and not a dog or something?
There's a variation. They tend to be generally, often if they've got dogs, they'll often have cats as well. But there's certainly a lot that also just don't allow it. It's no. The answer is no, and so you won't go there if you've got a dog or a pet. But there is becoming more and more dog-friendly places too.
Can I ask you about, even though the news is all about cost of living crises and all that, pet ownership's gone up. Are people able to afford having a pet in this environment?
That's a really good question, and we know, obviously we're in the business. We've got our online schools. It's a subscription model, and we've definitely noticed, in this last 6 months in particular, a decrease in numbers overall. So people are tightening up and getting squeezed. The numbers decreasing, probably 10-15%. You're seeing that the effect of inflation and mortgages and so on, just like anything else, is people are having to make the decision not to do that. Of course, the unfortunate thing is that can have a side effect of, therefore, those dogs end up on the streets or in rescue because they start manifesting problems because you're not using those resources you need.
What are you doing about this increase that you're seeing across the board in dog numbers and shelter capacity? What's your strategy to try and minimise your workload a little bit?
We did a lot of proactive work. We're also increasing our shelter staff to combat the increase in dogs. We do a lot of sort of high visibility patrols in high risk areas. We do work with the police as well, where we go to known areas where there are high risk of dog attacks and try and see if we can take some education or enforcement action to try and prevent further attacks.
I guess you have to go to the council to ask for more funding, you know. Have you got any funding increases over the last year or so, do you know? Or
I can't comment on it offhand, it's sort of not my department, but yes, we do have full support of council. They understand the threats and the demand that we're under. They have been supportive of us, and yes, like I say, we are increasing our staff. They are giving us the tools, or doing their best to give us the tools to do the job.
oh, cool. What about shelter capacity? Is there anything you can do to add some more kennels?
Well, I suppose I could say that they are looking for it could be another venue, or there is space, and whether the kennels would be of help to us.
Okay, so where are your animal shelters? We're one here in Henderson, there's one in Manukau. Where's the other one?
Silverdale. You notice your dog is missing when you come home or something, give council a call, give the shelters a call. Like I say, we hold the dog for 7 days. We would really like to hear from you. Don't leave it a week and then try and find out or contact us after that and sort of be upset with us because the dog's sort of been rehomed or council has given it to another rescue organisation or something like that. If your dog is missing and you love your dog, please come to the shelters, find out where your dog is. Don't just leave it.
That's it for today. I'm Tom Kitchen. The Detail is supported by the Public Interest Journalism Fund. Today's episode was engineered by Blair Stagpool. Our producers are Alexia Russell and Bonnie Harrison. Thanks to Sean Murray and Mark Vetty. Ka kite anō.